they had seen in my volunteer firefighting years that I was exposed to a certain amount of risk there. Been involved with both some structure fires and wildland fires that were a bit tricky. But I came from a family where there was a tradition of service. My father was in the Navy during the war. When I went off to college, my parents said, congratulations, you're going to college. You will serve your country. You can be an enlisted person or an officer, doesn't make any difference, but you will serve your country. So I went into ROTC at Harvard in the late 50s when it was a very unpopular thing to do. Our son is a diplomat in the Foreign Service who's been stationed in Jordan and Israel and Iraq and Afghanistan, and I think we just have a sense in the family that service is a responsibility. It comes with citizenship, and some types of service have risks. We have a son who has 5 children who commutes on a regular basis between Washington, D.C. and Islamabad and Kabul. Is he at risk? Yes. Do we worry about it? Not a lot, because there's not much we can do about it. I think one of the great things about the Smokejumper program is its incredibly good safety record. I think there have only been 1, maybe 2 people actually killed in jumping. The rest of the deaths occurred on the ground, and almost without exception, they occurred on large fires. And I have real problems about the way in which jumper crews get integrated into large fires. There is a certain macho element in all of us that wants to press ahead, that wants to win, that wants to fight the good fight. And we talk about people being warriors, and we talk about smoke jumpers as being, and hot shots and heel attack as being elite people. The subtext of that is somehow saying to those people, you're special, and you can and should take more risks. And I just don't buy into that. I think that when you have a specialized tool, you should use it for the purpose for which the tool was created. And using smoke jumpers on a project fire, to my mind, is craziness. I look at the situation in Washington State, and to my mind, it's much better to catch these fires early, have people jumping smokes, than have project fires that require thousands of people. Well, back in the late 50s, early 60s, the whole management philosophy was still Smokey the Bear. Fires are bad. Our job is to put them out. It wasn't until 70s, 80s that people began to say, wait a minute, we've got some big, huge problems here. And it wasn't probably till the Yellowstone fire when there was a national awareness of the downside of continued suppression. That with continued suppression, fuel load increased, and with an increased fuel load, the damage done by a fire goes up dramatically. Before 1900 and the big Michigan fire that led to the creation of the Forest Service, nature caused fires on a routine basis. We know that the American Indians used fire as a management tool. There's a certain arrogance that comes with people feeling that they know more and are better educated to say, well, we can control this and we can do better. I think there are not a whole lot of human interventions outside the field of medicine where we can sort of say, oh yeah, mankind's made things better. We tend to make things worse. And wildland firefighting is probably a great example across the board. Was there any particular fire that I thought we should not have suppressed? Certainly not at the time, because at the time, the mantra was hit them early, stop them before they go very far. But the fact of the matter is that we were able to move around reasonably well on the ground in the forest that we were on, even when there were no trails. So we didn't have the fuel loads that they have today. It's a real dilemma. When you've got a heavy fuel load, letting a fire burn in high fire conditions is a huge gamble. Now, what we're getting better about is towards the end of the fire season, and you see this much more from the Park Service than you do the Forest Service. The Park Service is more willing to say, hey, we'll let it burn. The Forest Service still is sort of, no, we're going to try to put it out. And you saw that in the fires where it went from the Stanislaus into Yosemite. There's two totally different control. But, and I also remember, you talk about funny things, we used to own wilderness areas, and we were absolutely prohibited from taking a chainsaw into a wilderness area. Said, no, you can't do that. We only use hand tools. I don't know whether that still prevails today, but it was a paradox. We're saying, wait a minute, you sent us in here to fight fire, but we can't bring in a piece of equipment to fight fire. I think we're getting smarter. I think that a key, as I alluded to earlier, is taking each forest section by section, evaluating its fuel load, evaluating its topography, and making decisions ahead of time as to under what conditions should we allow this section to burn. Asking an incident commander to make those decisions in real time is not going to end up with a good long-term solution. That incident commander quite properly is going to be making short-term decisions. And you end up, for example, with dozer lines in places where it does incredible long-term damage because, I'm always amazed at dozer operators. These guys could go in. A good cat skinner was just amazing to watch. Although on one fire I went on, I watched two brand new D9 cats roll down the hill and be destroyed in the same day. But firefighting was probably, to this day, remains one of the most rewarding things I ever did. And I've done a lot of things since, but I always think back to those 3 years at Redding, in Oregon, Washington, and other places we went. Best time of my life. Wish I could do it all over again.